Hey folks, welcome back to the show. My guest today is obsessed with sleep and recovery, and any biohacker worth their salt is obsessed with sleep and recovery. Any longevity enthusiast is obsessed with sleep and recovery. You don't have to be a biohacker, but if you are focused on optimizing your health, your performance, your longevity, and the whole 9 yards, then sleep has got to be at the top of your list. And my guest has made it his life's work and now his passion to make sure that as many of us as possible have the opportunity for an amazing night's sleep. And his name is Jack Dell'Accio. He makes Essentia mattresses. He's actually the head chef over there. I actually think that should be part of his title. His real title is CEO and founder of the company. And we talk all about what it takes for a great night's sleep and how this mattress in particular helps to address that. The cool thing about Essentia, if you're a sports fan, is a lot of your favorite athletes are sleeping on these mattresses when they're at home. Unfortunately, it's not a portable biohacking thing you can take with you. We have a great conversation. We talk about some of the current things that people are putting on their mattresses and where Jack sees them fitting in, what the best ones are, and which ones he feels maybe we could think about doing without. I don't know. I might have to try a couple of things before I commit to that. In any event, if you decide after this podcast that you simply need to own one of these mattresses, I encourage you to go into one of their showrooms and try them out for yourselves first. And then if you decide to buy, and I'm not going to lie, this is an investment. I talk a little bit about some of the ways I helped my husband to get over his sticker shock when we went to get our mattress. And if you think about how much time you spend on that mattress in your lifetime and what it actually does for you, it's, I think, one of the most worthy investments we can make and maybe worth saving up for if you don't have the money for it right now. In any event, we can help take a little bit of the pain away. You can use discount code BIONAT. That'll get you $100 off your mattress. And that seems to stack on top of any specials that they have going on at any given time. When I tested the code earlier today, when I recorded the podcast, it was live and it was $100 off and they were having a sale, and it still saved me $100 off the mattress that was on sale. So I will leave it to you, first of all, to dig into the podcast, go on this journey with me and Jack. He talks about a lot of the pro athletes that they worked with and how those pro athletes and the research they did through them really informed a lot of what they do. So thank you for being here. I totally appreciate you guys. You know where to find me. It's natniddam.com. That's where you can find the podcast. You can find my newsletter. And of course, in my Facebook group, Optimizing Superhuman Performance. And finally, if you love this episode and if you get value from it, please make sure that you share it with your friends, your family, anybody else who you believe can get value from this episode as well. And leave us a review. Ideally, if you really love it, a 5-star review, because of course, that's what allows us to rise up the rankings and become more visible and seen to other people just like you. So thank you again for being here. Totally appreciate you guys and enjoy the show. Hey folks, just a quick reminder that all of the information presented in this podcast is for information purposes only. No medical advice, no diagnosing, no treatments suggested here. Before you try anything that you hear about or learn about here, make sure that you check with your medical provider. Welcome to the podcast, Jack Dell'Accio. It is such a pleasure to have you here today.
Great to be here, Sandra. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, it's great. And it's always great to meet a fellow Montrealer, even though we're no longer both in Montreal, nor, it's I don't know. You never know if our paths cross downtown sometime.
Yeah, I know. That was pretty funny when you're Canadian, and I guess people are starting to not realize I'm from Montreal, but my factory is still in Montreal. Every Essentia is produced in the suburbs of Montreal.
Oh, is it really? Oh, cool.
Yep.
Look at that. Oh, actually, I think I know that and we were talking about this. So you guys don't know this because I don't always talk about these things, but now I'm going to start talking about it. And that is that I happen to already, before Jack's team reached out to me, I already owned an Essentia mattress, which has, along with a couple of other things, but it has basically up-leveled my sleeping game, which I already thought was pretty up-leveled. So, and we're going to talk about why that is. So when your team reached out to me to do a podcast, I was like, hell yeah, bring it. I'm all in. And then my mattress, I believe, did come from Montreal. Is that possible? Because you don't warehouse in the US and then send it back to Canada.
No, they're all just made and shipped to order. So everything is poured in Montreal. So they're not assembled in Montreal. We formulate, pour, bake. The complete formula is made right there in the suburbs of Montreal, and we ship around the world, all from there.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so I want to dig into this whole pour and bake and the whole 9 yards. But before we do that, did Jack Dell'Accio grow up as a small child dreaming of making mattresses for people? Or did you just have a very traumatic sleep experience as a child? What is it that brought you to this profession, this passion of yours? Because I think it's probably a passion. I mean, anybody who does what you do, you're not just setting out to make a mattress.
Yeah, it definitely developed into a passion in a sense. It was not. I don't think anyone dreams of building mattresses. Yeah, I guess. But but interestingly enough, when I look back a couple of years in, I kind of use those words. I never thought I'd be in the mattress industry. As an industry, I don't like to consider myself in the mattress industry. I really try to focus that I'm on the wellness, wellness circle rather than mattress industry. Mattress industry is a little bit more marketing rather than wellness is really to the point what we're trying to deliver an outcome. So for me, it happened. I've always been entrepreneurial. Right out of school, actually during school, part-time, I had my own business. Right out of when I graduated from college, and I went on to open up my first business. And I was doing well in a millwork design company. Had me in Europe a few times a year with some suppliers, and I really was enjoying my work. It had a little more design element to it, and I guess quite a few years in, I had some people in my family who had become ill. And I think that's usually the pivot point when anytime somebody, it's either their own experience or anyone in their surrounding, when they become ill, that's the only time you become aware of your environment, the only time you become aware of your body and our limitations or how unlimited we can be with the right environment. And as we were seeing different health practitioners, I just became aware of our indoor environment specifically. And my family was in the foam business, in the latex business before I have, but I never really took a deep interest in it just because, again, the mattress was not appealing. But then when I was so focused on indoor air toxins, I was really curious to know how we can make latex foam, which even at the time everyone knew was a healthier foam, didn't have any of the harsh VOCs and toxins that you get in polyurethane foams. And I was seeing with people undergoing cancer that they had respiratory issues with polyurethane, they were getting rashes. However, they needed that pressure redistributing foam for joint aches and pains from everything else they were going through. So I went on this journey to try to make slow response latex. We call it memory foam, but really slow response latex that would be a clean indoor air environment while giving pressure relief, while giving pressure redistribution. And I was really focused on just clean air and physical support. And I guess about close to 4 years, 3.5 to 4 years into the development, we finally came up with a workable product. And that's when I launched and founded Essentia. That was kind of really just the infancy, in the sense that I've always kept my research and development hat on. And today we've developed so much more than just organic product, but more so in performance and all the different elements that can help you get deeper sleep and more REM sleep. And we measure how well we do this. We measure, how we can push the limits of someone's performance through really focusing on their recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's such a good point, right? I mean, we were talking about this ahead of time, and I would love to talk a little bit about how you finally got into the performance athlete world, if you will, and how it's really only over the last, I don't know, is it 10, 15 years that people's attention has turned to recovery. I mean, before that, it was all about training, train hard, train hard, train hard. And you were even mentioning that, you know, it was just get calories into the body. Don't care how you do it. Just put whatever crap in that's going to yield the energy, let's say, through calories, and then train harder. And when you're broken, train some more, kind of thing. And that,
Yep.
that shift has fed into your business, and your business has fed into it in as well. But I think before we go there, you know, maybe let's talk a little bit about VOCs, which are volatile. I'm not sure.
Volatile organic compounds. So those are the particles in the air, and so some can be, you know, a higher concentration of them. They're all around us. They're outdoors or indoors. But the higher the concentration level, the healthier the environment is.
Right.
So when it comes to indoor air quality, there are government standards, which are really not enough for a healthy indoor environment. These days, there are some establishments that, you know, we work with the Well Living Lab with Mayo Clinic, and they're focused on really going deeper and having lower VOCs than what the standard is. And we, you know, from what we see as we monitor sleep, is that high levels of VOC stimulate your central nervous system, and that really gets in the way of proper deep sleep. That was one of the foundational elements that we realized had to be eliminated from mattresses. And mattresses are the number one contributor to VOCs in a bedroom. That is the highest density foam item in, so it's not coming from curtains or carpeting. It really is coming from very dense blocks of foam that most people are sleeping on.
Yeah, and that you're lying on all night long. Like, you spend a significant amount of your life in very close contact with this thing. And
That's right.
And so the VOC, so, and does the mattress just continue to emit VOCs through its lifespan? Or at some point, is there, like, I would imagine when it's brand new, it's off gassing more. Does that diminish over time? Do you have any sense?
Yes, it's constantly diminishing. Obviously, the big load is in its first 3 years, and then it's constantly diminishing. However, other things are taking its place. So when it's losing all of its VOCs, it's also drying up and then introducing other particles like microdust as it's breaking down. So it could be breaking down and introducing particles in the air that are not healthy to breathe in, or it's not even working properly because it's dry and it's compressing and it's sagging. It's no longer giving it a support need that it has. So a lot of these are only as useful as highly flexible materials when they're off gassing. Right.
Oh, that's interesting. And so so are you saying that mattresses should be changed every 3 years?
Not at all. When you're getting into, so when you're buying for example, a latex mattress. So just to be clear, most mattresses start failing people within that 3 years. So if you have a coil mattress, those coils are not designed to last so long. So the better the coil mattress, the deeper they buried it into the foam. So, right. So you know, the more surfaces you have over your coils, the better the quality mattress. Because the coils are not meant to resist any piece of metal. As you keep bending it, the more you bend it, the softer it gets. So the coil mattresses typically are a 3-year lifespan, even though whatever the guarantees are not relevant to how they're performing. When you get into a memory foam, synthetic memory foam, those ones they're typically last a good 10 years. Again, while they still have that softness, and then they're breaking down. But not all of them are built the same. The higher densities have higher VOCs, but they last longer. Most of what's on the market right now are low densities, which means that they're not lasting more than 3-4 years to begin with. I like to talk about latex foam because latex foam is a natural rubber. You can buy synthetic, but generally speaking, if you're buying an organic rubber, you're getting real durability out of it. That stays naturally hydrated, so that elasticity stays with it for 20, 25 years. So now you're not looking at breakdown. The only time that latex will break down is when it's exposed to the elements. So if you're exposing it to light, exposing it to air, that's when it starts to break, accelerate, and become biodegradable. But as long as it's enclosed in its cover and it's sheltered from light, it's not going to be breaking down and it'll last really long. That's why that's the material that I was working on to develop, just because we want that longevity. We don't expect people don't, even if their mattresses are breaking down, they're not changing them every 3 years. On average, they're changing them every 7 years, but they've tolerated a bad mattress for 3-4 years.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how long I had my last mattress before I finally got my husband to buy the one we have now. Just not.
But interestingly enough, sometimes you tolerate something, you live with it. I have a close friend of mine that he thought that his neck pain was completely just a factor of aging.
Yeah.
And he ended up changing and using one of our pillows, and then he comes to see me. He goes, "I can't believe it. The pain is gone." Well, what did you think we were doing here? And he said, "I just figured it was me. I was aging." And before we were briefly discussing, you now have an Essentia at home, but at your cottage you don't.
No, you've ruined my cottage for me.
But like now you've kind of really get to see side by side in the moment the difference from a quality sleep to a coil mattress, and it may have been a really good coil mattress, but after a couple of years it just will not be.
Yeah, no, well, I can assure you it was not a great coil mattress to begin with, because when we bought it was, okay, block your ears, like 20 years ago when we got our cottage. The only thing is it doesn't get slept in most of the year, right? Because
That's right, yeah.
By the lake, and which I'm sure brings its own set of challenges, but you figure we're on it, I don't know, for let's say 4 months, quarter time. So, it hasn't been slept on for 20 years worth of nights kind of thing. But what I was saying to Jack that I will share with you guys is just to outline the differences. And, it's an interesting thing. It's even as a coach, when I get someone to make a lifestyle decision and they make their lifestyle decision, they feel so much better. But 3 months down the road, they forget how they used to feel. Their new normal is feeling better. And with mattresses, it's not that different. So when we got our Essentia mattress in December, I just remember saying, "Oh my God, like this is the best bed I've ever slept in. I love my bed." And, I didn't have an emotional attachment to my bed before that. I was like, I liked going to bed. Well, I didn't really, because I think sleep's a waste of time, although I've changed my ways as a biohacker. But anyway, I knew I really liked my mattress, and I've done a lot of traveling this year, and I'm often reminded what it's like not to be on my Essentia, but it was really highlighted to me when I went back to the cottage, because not only are we on a coil mattress that was probably not that good to begin with, but the bed is also in a frame that doesn't, it's not particularly solid. And part of the beauty of the Essentia mattress, quite apart from all of the technology in the mattresses itself, is that it sits on a box spring that sits on the ground that gives it a particular degree of stability. And when I'm at the cottage, no matter any little move my husband makes gets transmitted to me through the mattress, and that automatically makes a mess of your sleep. Like it's just, and I'm a pretty light sleeper anyway. So whereas when I'm at home on my mattress, he could be bouncing around. I'm not going to feel it. So quite apart from just that beautiful feeling you get when you get onto your Essentia mattress, is that the physical reality of a different type of mattress is inescapable.
This is pretty cool, because I hadn't realized that you were already sleeping on an Essentia mattress, so it makes this discussion so much easier.
Yeah.
I hope we don't miss so many blanks, because we're just getting it without explaining it.
No, for sure. No, listen, I have my questions written down. So one of the things is, so there's memory foam and slow response latex technology. So slow response latex technology is what's built into the Essentia. You said earlier that memory foam is latex, slow response latex, or is it different?
Memory foam is a commercial term.
Okay. Yeah.
What typically what memory foam represents is polyurethane foam, polyurethane viscoelastic foam. So that's a full chemical byproduct. And when we launched this, I guess 17 years ago, latex foam was, there was latex foam. There wasn't that much of awareness of latex foam, and ours being a slow response latex, which mimics a memory foam, we felt the much more commercialization of Essentia was to say it's a natural memory foam because we were using organic components to make it. However, I think 17 years later, we're able to talk much more transparent about what the technology is. It's slow response latex foam. So what's slow response latex foam? Why that's key is it gives you what you were just speaking about, the movement isolation. It gives you the movement isolation that you get out of a synthetic memory foam. But also it gives you the pressure redistribution that you get from a memory foam. So now, and it gives you the posture support that you get from a memory foam. So it gives you all these amazing attributes that were really inherent to memory foam. However, one is we managed to exceed that performance. So our slow response latex foam does all of those 3 points much better. Why does it do it better? The higher density foam, the higher elasticity foam, so it gives better physical support, eliminating all negative space. It gives better pressure redistribution for blood circulation and eliminating any numbing that you might get. And it takes away that transfer of movement. And that's kind of how we've upped the game from what regular memory foam was to what our slow response latex is. And that's kind of only the physical attributes, because then we get to the next level of eliminating stimulants.
Yeah.
And that's where we really get in on sleep action.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. You talk about stimulant-free sleep recovery. And so, as a consumer, I sit there and go, well, stimulant-free. Well, obviously, I'm not going to drink coffee before I go to bed. But I have a sense that you're talking about something other than caffeine and other stimulants people think about.
You have to think what keeps the brain activity moving and what slows it down into like a kind of a micro hibernation. Those are the things that we monitor and we keep a pulse on. So I guess number one is the physical one, the obvious one, what we just addressed, which was when it comes to support. What are we doing there? We're eliminating pain as a stimulant, and pain is the obvious stimulant. If your back is hurting, your shoulders hurting, if you're getting pressure, that is basically provoking your body into action. Yep. So that's something that most mattress makers appreciate and try to better quality mattresses try to alleviate pain, try to increase comfort. So that's the one and the obvious one. Then there's another which more and more people are very familiar with is temperature regulation. So when it comes to temperature regulation, people think that it's comfortable to sleep cool or comfortable to sleep warm, but really there is a science behind it. We measure your brain activity, and what we realize is that it's sort of a dynamic reality. It's not about sleeping hot or sleeping cold. If your body is cooling down, your brain activity is slowing down and you're getting into deeper sleep. If your body temperature is increased, then your brain activity is activating and you're getting out of deep sleep and into your light sleep phase. This is sort of like it's almost like you picture the environment. The environment, you try to go back, prehistoric times without electricity, without everything we have around us. You're in a desert. What naturally happens is it gets hot in the day and it gets cold at night. And it's part of our natural cycle, part of how our bodies were meant to function. And so heat becomes a trigger, it becomes a stimulant to waking up. And so in fact, what we've been working on and what we've achieved is an actual dynamic core, which allows the body heat to escape, but throughout the night. So we measure our whole body recovery cores drops 7-degree surface temperature over that 8-hour time lapse. So it's not about going to bed cold or just having the room temperature cold, because some errors can happen where if your body heat is very warm and your environment is very cold, it can just cause perspiration from happening, and other types of discomfort. If your surface is trapping your heat, well, then that surface is increasing temperature. So really, it's about allowing body heat to escape the body and constantly throughout that 8-hour cycle. And if we're doing that, we're keeping you into REM sleep and deep sleep cycles longer. That is one of those stimulants. So pain, heat, and one of the topics we've already started to talk about is VOC.
Yeah.
So toxins are another stimulant that, again, get that central nervous system working in overdrive. And when you have any of these stimulants going on, what basically they're doing is just keeping your body active, unconsciously active. And, really, the game changers happen mentally during REM sleep and physically during deep sleep. And so what we've realized in analyzing sleep data with athletes has been the longer we keep people in those two cycles, and if we can increase it by 10%, 20%, 50%, sometimes 100%, we're getting much better outcomes. And that's why we try to set the table or set the environment to have all of these stimulants covered. Whether, again, pain, and there's more. We spoke about this briefly, EMF.
Yes.
EMF is something that, for the longest time, many general consumers don't really buy into it because a lot of people, if they don't see it, they don't believe it, or if they don't feel it, it can't be wrong. But it really is a real deal out there. And we've been able to identify maybe not the long-term outcomes or harms of EMFs, but we've been able to see an actual reaction in blood cells. So I think that was the moment that we were able to introduce technologies to eliminate the impact of EMFs. But I guess one of the things is where when I was consulting some of the pro athletes, they're young, they're successful athletes, but it's easy to tell them the challenges I always have is with the sleep routine.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of them want to, they want to train, they want to work hard, they want to play hard, but a lot of them want to party hard.
Yeah.
And partying hard is not part of the recovery. But another thing that I challenge with is not having their toys around. They all want to have their cell phones or their tablets. And in fact, that's what, telling these guys, I had my privacy setting on. Sorry about that. Okay. So the one of the main things that I was able to talk to them on is about keeping their sleep environment without any downloads and streaming. And again, that didn't pan out. But I started working with Dr. Valère in Switzerland and looking at the different types of products we can use that can overpower the actual EMF that you get from streaming. Because as you were speaking about earlier, back in the day, people would use grounding pads. Grounding pads made sense when it was electronic devices that were around us that were providing those magnetic barriers. But today, it's through 3G, 4G, 5G, all of this streaming and downloading is coming from everywhere. So it's not coming from any of the devices necessarily around you. It's everywhere, from your neighbor's house, it's from your local phone provider. But what we are able to see is that when you're actually downloading, we are able to see the blood cells behavior differently during active calls, during actual streaming of videos. So during that process, the cells were sticking together and creating this kind of almost, they look like caterpillars, where they all...
Yeah, you're like talking, are you talking about live blood cell analysis where you see rouleaus? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we were looking at that, we were saying, okay, well, there's this evidence that it's doing something. When you shut it off, it normalizes. So what we worked on was basically having a mineral formula to our mattresses that would overpower that. So the key is that everything has a signal. We're all based on electrical signals. We're alive because of electrical signals. But the natural organic signals that come from rocks, from minerals, from our bodies, it's a very harmonic signal. It's not a chaotic signal. And that allows our blood cells to behave normally. And so what we've done is introduce a mineral formula to our latex that has this overpowering effect. So our players are able to stream videos, download, be on active phone calls, and not get that caterpillar effect on their blood work.
Wow.
And that's one more way. Now, we don't have the long-term outcomes of what's wrong with EMFs. We have, and we don't have the long-term outcomes on how we will benefit from this. But just not seeing your body behave differently with or without a phone call, I think we're on the right direction here, and we're willing to go forward with it.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I mean, it's interesting with the players because at some level you've addressed a big chunk of it, which is the physiological response that's exhibited in the blood, which is kind of like a magnetic frequency kind of issue. Unfortunately, staring at that tablet, at that phone, all that before bed is still going to have a negative impact on their brains, and there's
absolutely
deep sleep and all that kind of stuff. But I guess that's a different battle to fight on a different day. But I'm curious about something. So do you put this technology into all your mattresses, or is it just into some of them?
Currently, it's in some of them. We've been able to successfully integrate it in our whole body recovery formula. Okay. Everything goes back to formula in a sense that we have to blend these. They need to, whenever we add something, it needs to still address all of the other stimulants and whether it be heat. So we've been able to properly integrate it into our whole body recovery mattresses. So we've made it as an option on there. But I'm actually working right now on how do we integrate this in our performance line and in our lifestyle line. So that's an ongoing R&D for me, because every time we discover something that's up the game, I try to integrate it in everything we make.
Do you think it would ever be something like a mattress topper that somebody could add, let's say, to their performance mattress like I have?
Yes, it definitely will be. I just don't have a timeline on it just yet.
Yeah, that seems like the obvious, right? It allows people to upgrade the mattress they have. And
absolutely. It's something that we're actively working on to try to get it right, whether it be on a pillow or on a mattress topper. But we're working on both of those right now.
Cool. So it's interesting when and I mean, we still have 3 more stimulants to go through, but before we get to the next 3 stimulants, I'm curious about when you talk about making these mattresses, you talk about, it sounds to me like you're almost talking about baking, because you're creating a recipe and it has to mix properly, and then you're baking it and setting it. So I probably should have asked this beforehand, but what's involved in making an Essentia mattress, obviously without giving away your trade secrets, but what is it that's so special? I mean, other than the fact that it's, first of all, we now know it's organic rubber. So it's an actual organic material. It's not a synthetic, but maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into this, because it's interesting.
Yeah, we really call it the kitchen. So we really call it the kitchen because it goes through, kind of like a cake making process where rather than batter, it's latex. But we've changed the performance of the latex based on essential oils and things that we're changing in the viscosity and the reaction of the latex itself. And we pour it on in different layers. And that we keep pouring on will have different blends and different reaction times. So a mattress will be poured over like a cake, layer over layer over layer.
Wow.
So the top layer doesn't need to do like the mid layer, transition layers, and base layers. So they all have a purpose, and they all need to have a different elasticity. They all need to have a different firmness and comfort level, support level. So we're making these. These used to be done manually. Now that we've got this beautiful robot that basically does all the blending and is able to pour layers over one another to make this mattress. But once it's completely poured, then it's locked. We close the lid, lock it in, and we bake it. So it has to go through the heating process where now it comes from a liquid into a solid, and then from there it has to go through a whole 48-hour curing process. So it really is almost a romantic food processing. I feel like I need Stanley Tucci to do a tour.
I think you do. And then I have another question to you. So then in this case, for this type of mattress, you're never going to flip it over. No. You may rotate it, but you'll never flip it over because the backside is not meant to be slept on, really. It's the top side.
Correct. It's the bottom is a full support area, and the comfort layers and the transition layers are all happening on the surface. You know, the most mattresses these days are not flippable mattresses.
Yeah, I'm probably talking about my 20-year-old mattress.
Yeah, just right now, for some, the reasons were lower cost to make a one-sided instead of a mattress. But on a higher end quality, generally you're putting in such high density materials, quality materials, that the flip is not really needed. And these mattresses won't be breaking down. They won't be sagging on you. And a typical spring mattress needs that rotation, flipping, every year to stretch its lifespan.
Yeah, no, and
with these materials, we're concerned about that.
Well, one of the triggers and ways I got my husband to agree to a new mattress in the first place, and he finally gave in and said, okay, fine. It's your Valentine's Day, Christmas, Hanukkah, birthday. I don't know, listed about 27 different things that it was going to be my present for. But one of the things was, dude, I feel like I'm rolling downhill every night until I hit the bottom of that valley. Like I was like... and I had to remind him of the happy wife, happy life little moniker and all the things. And he eventually came around. And I think he's pretty happy about it now too. And okay, so one more question, and then we're going to go back to our 7 stimulants. So the low density, high density, because your mattress, like so many other mattresses now, it comes in a box, right? It's all folded up and packed into this box. And I mean, I got a king size mattress, and I mean, granted, the box weighed 1.5 tons, but it was smushed into this little box. But I was able to, I believe the instructions were that I could sleep on my mattress pretty soon after I took it out of the box. Whereas the other foam mattress that I got for my son, I don't remember the name of it, and it was way cheap. No way does it compare to this. It had to be left, I want to say 24, but maybe 48 hours to re-expand itself after coming out of the box. Does that point to the low density, high density thing?
Correct. Yeah. A low density will take a lot longer for it to kind of reclaim that air, because it's mostly air. So it took more time for air to kind of reconstitute the whole product. Ours are very high density. I believe they are the highest density ever on the market today.
Which explains the weight.
Actual amount.
Right.
Is the weight, exactly. Yeah. And don't forget, my guess is that inexpensive mattress that you bought for your son was probably about 50% thicker than our mattress, and about 25% of the weight.
Yeah,
so that's the concentration of the concentration of product is really high on ours.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes some sense. And yeah, anyway, well, he went to college, slept on it for 4 years. Now he's moving on. So who knows?
All good.
Okay, let's get back to our 7 key elements for stimulant-free. So we've got removal of pain, managing body temperature, reducing or eliminating VOCs, neutralizing EMFs. What's our contestant number 5?
We actually have the blood circulation pressure relief. So if we're not getting that proper oxygen flow, if we have those obstructions in oxygen flow, the body is working to do this for you. So it's anytime you need some type of unconscious effort to do something, it becomes an issue. one of the things that we did notice is that specifically a problem with mattresses was their response to that human behavior. So when you're sleeping, there's, especially during REM sleep, it can trigger some movement. So a bad mattress kind of always makes you move. You're tossing and turning, usually because of support and pain. But in the perfect environment, if you had the perfect support, you can still make movements caused by dreaming. And so movements that come from dreaming in the best of environments, what we were realizing is that mattresses that were not responsive enough, typically memory foam mattresses, when you change position, it would take about 6 to 8 minutes for the mattress to become supportive again. So if you can imagine that these are all mattresses that are activated by your body heat. So the way that the chemistry of those products is that it relies on your body heat to create that body cast. So when you change position, two things need to happen. The new area needs to absorb your body heat, which happens pretty instantly. You know, within a minute, it's taken on that full. But what ends up happening is the old spot where you're on, that still retained your body heat. That's why people hate sleeping on memory foam beds, because they sleep hot. So, but that old position, while that's still warm, that body cast that it's supposed to make is not there, and that takes about 6 to 8 minutes for that to cool down and then to become supportive again. What we are realizing is when this is happening, you're actually staying in the light sleep cycle. So now we're preventing you from naturally going back into a deep sleep cycle. So that's one of the things that we addressed back in 2009, really focused on the elasticity and the behavior of the latex to be instant, while having the pressure redistribution, full kind of body casting effect. Yet we're not body heat activated. So when you change position, by increasing that response time that we had with our foam, we were able to address that completely. So again, within 6 seconds, the mattress is readapted to your new position. So that was one of the other ways that we realized that we call that a stimulant, is how mattresses were preventing deep sleep from occurring, or even the quantity of it, because there's you're going through many cycles through your 8-hour time lapse, and the sooner we get the optimal environment, the sooner we get you back into REM deep sleep.
Yeah, and the more cycles you can go through the night. So let me ask you a question that might be a little bit controversial, and that is that, so people are putting all these things on their beds, right? So they get a mattress, they get a mattress pad, which creates a layer of separation between you and your mattress. And so if the mattress is relying on your body heat to adapt to your shape and create that cast, are you basically cutting off your nose to spite your face here, like by having a barrier? And then there's another one I'm going to bring up, which you probably know what it is, but I'm curious on your opinion on this. So let's start first with, obviously, with a mattress like the Essentia, you don't need one of those foam topper things. You don't need a feather, whatever those, people put all kinds of stuff on top of bad mattresses to make them feel better.
Right.
But people will naturally put a mattress pad on top of the mattress just to protect it from getting dirty and stuff.
Correct. Well, that's one of those things. If you need to put it for protection, you have to do what you do. However, every time you put a layer, that there's the layer in those mattress protectors, even in a food grade backing, it will prevent some of that body heat from escaping. It'll trap some of it. So in the better quality ones, you're going to prevent 60-70% of that body heat from escaping. So definitely, I understand in some cases it's a must, but if it's not a must, I would always suggest not to put anything between you and your Essentia mattress.
Okay, which will bring me to my next point, which a lot of us.
I do have an opinion on it.
I'm sure you do.
Have an opinion on it.
Many of us biohackers swear by our the technology that cools down the surface of our bed actively. So I see, you know, I use, well, we don't, people know what I use. I'm not going to mention it here, but, you know, as a category of biohacks that people add to their beds, Jack, why don't you share with us your thoughts on this? Because I have a opinion.
So they do have a product that I do like, and it doesn't go between you and your mattress. So to me, anything interfering with what we're trying to achieve with EMF, we're trying to achieve with posture support, blood recirculation, all these things that, and allowing your body heat to flow through. So these chilling pads, a couple of things. The first hand, you don't want to have one integrated in your bed, because if you have one integrated in your mattress, it could lead to mold. It can lead to all kinds of problems, because you can have condensation, and if that's happening, it could lead to other serious issues in your environment. Secondly, you know, the materials that it's made out of, right? You'll have plastics running through that. You'll have different hoses, and I want to eliminate as much of that as possible. But there is one product that I think really works well with Essentia, and you know, it basically it's a blanket that goes over you instead of a pad that goes under you.
Okay.
So if you have the chill blanket over you, there's a brand out there, it's Chilly Sleep.
Yeah,
I think change your name. And so they have a blanket, and I don't hide behind it. I told them directly, I believe in your chili, I believe in your blanket, not as much in your pad, and it's all good, right? So the blanket helps you cool down, because I believe that that's really for the onset of sleep. And I think it's a great product for the onset of sleep, because, you know, it really accelerates that that getting into conscious sleep immediately. Works for me very well. However, my focus is on the full 8 hours. So the full 8 hours, having the blanket helps you with the onset of sleep, but now having the mattress and all of its work help you for the 8 hours of sleep, I think that's where you really benefit of the whole thing.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, we'll see. I'm going to have to do a couple of experiments with the chili blanket and see. I don't have one, but I'll give it a shot and see how it works. Yeah, that's.
I think you need to thank me. I think I mentioned them in so many podcasts.
Well, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to call you and thank you, or they're going to send somebody out after you. Okay. So then, we've done 4. What's number 5? Or did we say number 5? And I just forgot to write it down.
I'm not sure.
We talked pain, temperature, VOCs. Oh no, we did, because you said number 5 was blood flow.
And
blood pressure.
So we've got the movement covered. We had heat. We had EMFs. We had VOC.
Movement was the other one, which we talked about earlier, which is how the mattress for that to kind of get amplified across the mattress. So we've got movement, blood flow, blood pressure, pain, temperature, VOCs, EMFs. Is there anything else?
I think that's it. I don't carry any notes with me. I usually I think we've covered them all the different stimulants that we have.
Okay, cool. So that's the 7 key elements for stimulant-free sleep. Yeah. Eliminate VOCs, neutralize EMFs, and obviously, you know, I think that in a perfect world, what you're not saying to people is, oh, you can have your phone and your iPad and your computer on your bed running. What you're really saying to people, in a perfect world, you shut that stuff off. And what the mattress is really dealing with is the ambient EMFs that, as you mentioned earlier, we literally can't get away from anymore. Like if I turn on my phone now and I look, I'm seeing probably 10 different Wi-Fi channels on my phone, right? I can't join any of them because they're all private. But
they're there. Your phone has caught on to them. They're in your space.
Exactly. It's a chemical soup.
Stop them from being in your space.
Yeah, and I try not too much to think about the big building that's about a block away from me that's got all these 5G doohickeys pointing my way, which drives me a little nutty. But get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm either going to move to a mountain or I'm going to have to learn how to deal with this stuff and deal with it. So
I try to encourage people also to use those blue light blocking glasses.
Yeah.
If anything, what does for me is it actually gets me tired a lot faster.
Yeah.
By eliminating that light, I lose patience and I put the phone down, and it's almost like a trainer.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how many shows you miss most of? Because if you're wearing your blue blockers, you fall asleep while watching TV.
That's right.
not that I mean, I don't have a TV in my bedroom, but it means I fall asleep in front of the TV in my living room. And I'm like, and then you're all crabby because of course that's one of the things you don't want to do is interrupt your sleep by having to get up and
interrupt your sleep. Exactly.
But yeah, it's always hard when you're watching that Netflix show that you really like. And you're like, oh man, I missed the end again. I just keep missing the end of the show. Okay, and now, so control temps, and I'm going through my notes here. I think we've covered almost everything. Tell me a little bit how you got started working with pro athletes, because your list of customers, in addition to now including a lot of biohackers, I think you started off with the pro athlete crowd really. So how did you get started there? Is it just because you're an avid fan, or how did that all evolve?
It kind of just, it really almost just happened a little accidental, I'd say. So obviously very focused on my work and usually in development and product development. So never really have been out there all that much. But then someone from the Montreal Canadiens organization had reached out to me and was interested in the technology. By then, we had patented our whole body recovery core, and we weren't even speaking about we were mainly speaking about VOCs and heat were the main things that we were focusing on, and obviously pain management. And so someone from the team had reached out to me, and I met with their medical team, and we were just speaking about our technology and what we do. And we're speaking about their players and what they can do and what they can use for support. And it was kind of interesting because I was also observing how they were handling people with neck injuries and back injuries. And in that off season, I hired there was heading that department for neck and back diagnosis for what kind of treatment they had to have. And that's where we developed our posture ID technology, where you go through questions and it goes through our algorithm. And myself with the guys from the medical team came up with 256 different formulas on making the proper mattress for any individual athlete, and we can work with them remotely. I speak to someone by phone in LA, and through 20, 25 questions, I'd be able to identify exactly his muscular strength, muscular weaknesses, exactly what I had to build for him as a mattress. And in conversation, he kind of mentioned to me that I should be speaking to Pat Brisson. I go, by Pat, Pat's very well known as a hockey agent. And he goes, well, he's got all the best players. Anyhow, I get back to my R&D, get back to my office. I'm not business dev, so I'm not picking up the phone calling anybody. I go kind of back, put my lab coat back on.
Yeah.
And about a week later, he's on the phone with someone in my office, and I'm walking back to my office, and the girl that works for me says, I got someone here on the phone, and he's just dropping some names, and Sidney Crosby and Jonathan Taves, and he goes, well, what's his name? Well, it's Pat Brisson. Patch him through. Coincidentally, it's like the universe sent him to me because someone mentioned it. Anyhow, he ended up staying on the phone for like 2.5 hours discussing, and Sidney Crosby's trainer was researching the best mattresses for the hockey players, for himself, for his own personal use, and to suggest to the players. And all of his research led him to Essentia, and he flew into Toronto, to our Toronto location, spent half a day looking at all of what we had to offer and all the information. Then went back and did his research, and finally gave his findings to Pat Brisson, who picked up the phone and called the company. He's after 2.5 hours, he goes, "Oh, where do I try one of these things? Where are you located?" And I said, "I'm in Montreal, Quebec." And he goes, "Oh my God, I'm from Quebec as well." So he was pretty excited that we were both Canadian. And I go, "So where are you located?" "Marina Del Rey." "I've got a Santa Monica shop." So at that time, I had a Santa Monica shop. So that's where the relationship started. From that point on, he suggested us to every player. And so it became Andy O'Brien, Pat Brisson, and probably every elite hockey player sleeping on our product. I'm watching the playoffs now. It's a lot of fun because I see which Essentia players are playing against which Essentia players. I know some on both teams. And but what this really sparked for me was working with professional athletes. And I was able to get in a situation where a lot of players volunteered, put on wearables, and for us to track their sleep. And so we were able to track, we had a group of 60 players for 2 months. We were able to track their sleep, and with a double-blind test. So we had some people on regular memory foam, other people on other types of mattresses, and a group on Essentia, and no one knew what they were sleeping on. So, and we were able to track sleep and then interchange and really see how things worked out. And the data was amazing.
Wow.
We were really, really far above, and then we continued to build on that data. So, from when I started the company was as a product that would help people undergoing serious illnesses. And we still do have many customers who are going through their biggest life challenges, and they're buying our mattresses, and which is great. But we learned so much from them, and we learn a whole lot from professional athletes because they're very much in tune with their bodies. They're, they know if they slept well, they know if they're performing better, they know if they're focused, and sleep and recovery helps them with their confidence, with their focus, with their agility, with their recovery, physical recovery. It does so much, which is amazing. So it's been a great journey with both of those groups. And, as of last year, we really tweaked into a biohacking community, which is the same as those pro athletes, but except they are kind of like us. They live and have other jobs, not specifically, but we need to perform, right? You're CEO or you're, in so many positions, everybody wants to perform well. You want to perform well at home with your family. You want to have the energy to have, powerful weekends. I know that, when I play hockey with my friends, I want to have a good game. Although no one's paying me to play hockey, I pay to play hockey, but I still want to have a great game. And so it's a lot of fun. The biohacking community is in that same category as our athletes. It's been a great evolution for the company.
No kidding. And so do you, just out of curiosity, do you customize mattresses for athletes? Because I would guess, I don't know if you've broken into the NBA at all, but now we're talking about humans who are not built like other humans. Like they are gigantic. They're really, they're big guys. Like we're talking 7 foot tall athletes who've got to be tipping the scales, or football players, they're tipping the scales at 300 pounds. Like, Shrimpo over here can't possibly, what makes me happy can't possibly make that guy happy on a mattress.
We make for NFL players. I've got some players in at 370 pounds that use our mattress that we custom built. NBA players. We make these 8 foot by 8.5 foot beds specifically. They're the ones who mainly buy them. It's available to anybody, but they are the ones who buy it. It's our Pro Core mattress. We make them in any size, and we make them built to fit any individual. They're monsters. Like, your mattress was heavy. So, for guys like Kevin Love, we made an 8 foot by 8.5 foot by 14 inch. So, that's about 3.5 times the weight of your mattress. So we do, and we still use the algorithms that we learned through our affiliation with them at the time with the team at the Montreal Canadiens. So we still use the same practices of figuring out their muscular strength, muscular weaknesses And we've kind of automated that process so that people fill out the questionnaire and submit, and they're able to get a custom mattress. And we make it available to everyone, but obviously it's those pro athletes that are the biggest consumers of that category product.
And okay, so you actually customize it to their body as well. Like it's not just a size thing; it's to their biomechanics.
Oh yeah, size and body.
Right. So what do they do when they travel? Because you can't be traveling with that baby in your carry-on. Now you got to.
Well, that's that, and I'll tell you that's the biggest issue with leagues like the NBA. The NBA, their travel schedules are not revolving around their recovery at all. And you know, it actually takes me back to a story when I was, I guess it's 5 years ago. I spent some time with Andy O'Brien with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and really I was amazed at how they took recovery so seriously. They had won the Stanley Cup one year, and they had this simple thought process because we have the talent, we have the players, we have the longevity to repeat a championship. So they focus everything on recovery.
Interesting.
So we were there to talk about recovery room and how much, based on the training, how much additional recovery every player needed. They changed their travel schedule according to their sleep schedule. They changed their training. So when they were in the West Coast or East Coast, they went to bed at the same time, irrelevant of time zone. So if it was midnight at one place, it would be midnight and 9 p.m. So they made sure that everything followed their recovery schedules, and they repeated. I was actually fortunate when it took me back to, did I ever think I'd be in the mattress industry? Well, did I ever think I'd be in the mattress industry and invited by the Pittsburgh Penguins to sit in the owner's box to watch a playoff game? I would have never guessed that.
Yeah. But you know what? You deserve your spot, right? Because as you said, as you can see, and you would probably spot it in the players, right? It's their ability to recover and their ability to perform. There was a game recently, and I think it was in the NHL playoffs, where a team lost a playoff game, and maybe a very important playoff game. I want to say it was one of the Florida teams, and then word was scuttling around that a bunch of the players may or may not have been out till 3:00.
Oh yeah,
the night before.
Yeah, that was a Florida team. They got swept at the Tampa.
So.
And that's maybe a team who had possibly given up, or a set of players who had possibly given up, or that don't respect recovery. I have to tell you that the better the elite players, I don't have to tell them anything. They're already there. They're on board. Their sleep, their nutrition. When they come to town. I remember one time. Player calls me up. He goes, "Any suggestion for a vegan restaurant when I'm in town?" Even on the downtime, they're focused on eating well. When I was in, the Canadians back room, and just eating, there's no more donuts, there's no more bagels.
No,
it's all healthy, high protein food, and those days are gone. And some players don't take their careers as seriously. And there are players that way. They enjoy being there. They enjoy that they've made it, but they don't necessarily strive to be the best. They have much more potential, and that's fine. Everyone has their reason. But the ones that are getting high achievement, it doesn't just happen. They work at it. They work on their recovery, and they work on their training as well.
Well, and I think we see it in their longevity, right? Like the LeBron James of the world are definitely dialing in, and he's legendary for that. Or Tom Brady. Like these are guys who are legendary.
Yep, absolutely.
And they're around a hell of a lot longer than a lot of the other guys. I mean, there's talent and genetics and a lot of things at play, but it's not an accident. I think, one of the things that really, one of the things that drives these, sometimes you watch these series on these players, and I watched the Michael Jordan series last year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I think what we forget, because we keep saying, oh my God, the guy's so talented and it comes so easy to him and he's just flying through the air and doing all the things. And when you realize like how much blood, sweat, and tears and work, and how every piece of them is geared to this one thing. It's not an accident, and I think there's a lot of talented people around. They don't all make it.
Absolutely. And I mean, the work that goes in, the physical punishment that they have to go through. And that's where we look at it in Stanley Cup playoffs and see how players have to dive and work through injuries. I mean, for a player to be able to perform that way in the playoffs where they have to perform, they can't just say, well, I'm out for recovery. That recovery happens all year.
Yeah.
Your body needs to be ready for the playoffs because it's going to get hurt. It's going to get injured and you need to work through it.
Yeah.
So that's I love this time of year.
Yeah. Building resilience into the body. And I think that's, I think ultimately how you sleep, just getting away from the pro athletes for a minute, but how you sleep and how you recover is what ultimately gives your body that resilience to deal with all the crap that you can't control in life. Right. And so I think sleep in your sleep environment is one of those controllable factors that if you're willing to invest in it can probably make a big difference. Now it sounds like I'm saying what you're supposed to be saying, but I mean, I've drunk the Kool-Aid.
But it's also, there's sort of like a lot of people are always kind of building a sleep debt. They're losing out, and it takes longer and longer for them to make up for what they've lost. And everyone's focused on making up for what they've lost or, catch up on your sleep. I mean, this is a constant dynamic thing. So if you're always catching up on your sleep, you're actually never performing at your peak ever. But reverse it. If you're always on a surplus, if you're always over recovered, now you're always at your peak and you're always excelling, getting better and higher energy and better results and better outcomes. So no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I think catching up on sleep is fundamentally a flawed concept, and people need to understand, it's a little bit like in a past life, in a past career, I used to sell outdoor advertising, and which not too many people know, but I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast before. But in outdoor advertising, if you don't sell that billboard for the month of May, you don't make it up. It's gone. You can sell it out in June, but you can never get back your May revenue. And I think sleep is a lot like that. You can't reclaim sleep that you didn't get. You can change your ways and do better moving forward, but the body doesn't work that way. You can't make up on the weekend what you went into debt on during the week. If anything, it messes up your sleep cycles because now you get into the next week and your sleep cycle's messed up and it's like you're starting all over again. So
exactly.
I 100% agree with you that full-blown, commitment / obsessiveness to sleep is well warranted. And, as, I've often commented on, how my husband experienced this crazy sticker shock when we bought our Essentia. And I joke about how it was my present for the next 27 years for all of the occasions of my life. But really, I think, he's a business guy. And at the end of the day, if you break it down and you sit there and go, okay, how many hours do you spend on this thing? What is its contribution to your health and your performance? It's a worthy investment. So I like to talk about it as an investment versus a cost. It's like the coaching I do. People invest in themselves. It's not a cost. It's an investment.
Funny when it reminds me of at one point I was in our New York shop, and a couple was in there, and she, just like you, was very enthusiastic about all the research that she's done on Essentia, and really wanted to have the Essentia, and it comes at a price tag, and looked at her husband, and he was very easygoing because she said, so what do you think? Can we go for it? And he looked up, and there was this big testimonial by Jonathan Taves from the Chicago Blackhawks on the wall next to him. And he just looked at it and he says, well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Let's go for it. So he was the easygoing, but it was just kind of funny where, our athletes are not ambassadors or anything. They just organically given their testimonials. They've all purchased their mattresses, and we're not a big company, so you won't see commercials on Essentia. Like it's not mainstream that way. But these athletes have helped us in the journey along the way, twisting the arms of some of those husbands.
Yeah, well, and providing you with a lot of the science, right, and a lot of validation for how the product works, which is fantastic. So Okay, well, have we left anything out, Mr. Jack? Or do you think we've pretty much covered it? Do you have any parting words for the audience? Things you think that they really should, maybe one or two things they should focus on?
Oh boy, one or two things they should focus on. I mean, I'm always about the full package, but awareness. Keep learning about it. Keep listening to these podcasts. The more you keep your mind on it, the more you get it in your awareness, you start to do better at everything in your world. From all of your habits become better. So awareness is the key. That's the foundation to making it all work. Like I mentioned, some of the tricks that make it go along, whether it be wearing some blue block glasses that should start training you to get into the right habits, and the darker the better. You know, they have those red lenses ones that practically take everything away. Really train yourself to that sleep is vital, and to get into that direction. It makes the daytime so much better.
Absolutely.
That's really the outcomes are there.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed connecting with you.
Likewise.
And let me know when you come see your parents in Boca.
I will. And okay, so guys, Jack, one last thing. We're going to tell people where to learn more about the mattress if they want to connect with you. And we have a discount code for them as well. But first, where do they go to learn more about Essentia?
So everything's at our website, myessentia.com, myessentia.com. And you've got tons of information there. It's a pretty robust website with learning centers, everything about the 7 stimulants, the research that's on there. You can see the blood work on the EMF. So there's just tons and tons of information. Dive into it. Our people love to swim in knowledge, and that's why we try to put as much on there as possible, and reach out to anybody. We have well-trained people to talk to you by chat, by phone, by email. So we're here to help, and we're here to inform. And usually, the more informed, I'll fall back on Essentia. So it has a good business end to it too.
Amazing. So myessentia.com, and then BioNat. The discount code BioNat will save you $100 on whatever mattress you choose. And it seems to stack on top of sale prices. I just tested it before the podcast, and Essentia has a sale going on now. Now, by the time you're listening to this, there'll be another sale, maybe if it's the right time of year. I don't think you have sales all the time, but it'll be a couple of months before the podcast comes out. But BioNat will stack on whatever pricing is live on the site at the time. And that'll save you an extra $100. And by the way, guys, get the pillows. The pillows are amazing. They're just the best next to the mattress. So thank you again, Jack. It's been a total pleasure.